Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed the heavy cart through the automatic doors of Walmart. The Georgia heat was brutal even at 8 in the evening, and the air conditioning inside felt like a blessing. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at the construction site, and his body ached in places he forgot existed. All he wanted was to grab some groceries for the week and get home to his empty apartment. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Marcus navigated through the produce section. His calloused hands picked through the bananas, selecting the ones that were just ripe enough. Working construction for 15 years had taught him to appreciate simple things like fresh fruit after a long day of manual labor. He tossed a bag of apples into his cart and moved toward the meat section. That's when he first noticed her. A woman stood in front of the ground beef display, holding a small package of the cheapest meat available. She kept picking it up, looking at the price tag, then putting it back down. Marcus could see her counting crumpled bills in her hand, her lips moving silently as she calculated. She appeared to be in her early 30s, with shoulder-length brown hair that looked like it needed a good washing. Her clothes were clean but worn, and her shoes had seen better days. Marcus continued shopping, but something about the woman's situation stuck with him. He had been raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a car accident when he was 12. Grandma Rose had always taught him to help others when he could, especially those who reminded him of his own struggles. She used to say that kindness was the only currency that mattered in life. When Marcus circled back to get some chicken, the woman was still there. This time, she had moved to the marked-down meat section, where packages with yellow clearance stickers were displayed. She picked up a small container of ground turkey that was set to expire the next day. Even that seemed to be stretching her budget. Marcus pretended to examine the steaks while keeping an eye on the woman. She looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying burdens that are too heavy for one person. Her shoulders sagged with a weight that had nothing to do with physical labor. When she finally selected the discounted turkey and placed it carefully in her basket, Marcus noticed her cart. It contained the most basic items possible. A loaf of white bread that cost 99 cents. A small container of peanut butter. A bag of rice. Some bananas that were already turning brown. A gallon of milk. It was the shopping list of someone trying to stretch every dollar as far as possible. Marcus made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He finished his own shopping quickly, grabbing the usual items he needed for the week. Steaks for the weekend, fresh vegetables, a case of beer, some snacks. His cart looked abundant compared to hers. At the checkout line, he positioned himself 2 lanes over from where the woman was waiting. He could see her organizing her items on the conveyor belt with the precision of someone who knew exactly how much everything cost. When the cashier began scanning her items, Marcus watched as the woman kept a running total in her head. She had $23.47 in cash, mostly ones and fives. As the total climbed, her face grew more anxious. When the cashier announced the final amount, it was $24.12. The woman stared at the register display for a moment, then asked the cashier to remove the turkey. Marcus felt something twist in his chest as he watched her carefully count out her money, leaving her with enough for everything except the protein she had carefully selected. That's when Marcus stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said to the woman's cashier, pulling out his wallet. "I'd like to pay for her groceries." The woman turned around, her eyes wide with surprise and embarrassment. "Oh no, I couldn't," she said quickly. "Really, I'm fine. I don't need the turkey." Marcus smiled gently. "My name is Marcus. I just finished a long day at work, and I was taught that when you're blessed, you should share that blessing. Would you please let me help you?" The cashier looked between them uncertainly. The woman's eyes filled with tears, and Marcus could see her struggling with her pride. Behind them, other customers were growing impatient, but Marcus didn't care. This moment felt important in a way he couldn't explain. "I don't even know you," the woman whispered. "That's okay," Marcus replied. "Sometimes the best help comes from strangers." "What's your name?" "Sarah," she said softly. "Sarah Mitchell." "Well, Sarah, I'm going to pay for your groceries, and I don't want anything in return except for you to promise me that when you're in a position to help someone else someday, You'll remember this moment." Sarah's tears spilled over as she nodded. The cashier processed Marcus's payment for both sets of groceries, and Marcus helped Sarah load her items into bags. As they walked toward the exit together, Sarah finally found her voice. "I have to ask," she said, stopping near the customer service desk. "Why did you do that?" "Really?" Marcus set down his bags and looked at her directly. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She used to tell me that we're all just walking each other home in this life. Sometimes we need someone to carry our groceries for a while." Sarah laughed through her tears. "Your grandmother sounds like she was a wise woman." "She was," Marcus agreed. "She also would have liked you. She had a gift for spotting good people who were just going through a hard time." They stood in the store entrance for a moment, neither wanting to break the connection that had formed. Outside, the parking lot was busy with evening shoppers coming and going. The automatic doors swooshed open and closed as people passed. "Can I ask what's been so difficult?" Marcus said gently. "You don't have to answer, but sometimes talking helps." Sarah shifted her grocery bags in her arms. "I lost my job 3 weeks ago. I was working as a receptionist at a dental office, but they had to cut costs. My unemployment benefits haven't started yet, and I'm trying to make my savings last until I can find something else." Marcus nodded understandingly. "What kind of work are you looking for?" "Anything, really," Sarah replied. "I have experience with office work, customer service, some bookkeeping. I'm not picky at this point. I just need something steady." An idea began forming in Marcus's mind. His construction company had been talking about hiring someone to handle their paperwork and phone calls. The business had grown enough that the owner, Dave Peterson, was drowning in administrative tasks. It wasn't a high-paying position, but it would be steady work with decent benefits. "I might know of something," Marcus said carefully. "My boss has been talking about needing office help. It's not glamorous work, but it's legitimate, and he's a good man to work for." Sarah's eyes lit up with hope. "Really? What kind of office?" "Construction company," Marcus explained. "Peterson building and remodeling. We do residential and commercial work throughout the area. Dave needs someone to answer phones, handle scheduling, do some basic bookkeeping. The pay would probably start around $12 an hour, but there's health insurance after 90 days. For someone in Sarah's position, $12 an hour sounded like a fortune. She tried not to seem too eager, but Marcus could see the relief flooding her features. "Would you be willing to put in a good word for me?" she asked. "I'll do better than that," Marcus said. "Why don't you come by the office tomorrow morning around 8? I'll talk to Dave tonight and set up an informal interview. Bring a resume if you have one, but don't worry if it's not perfect. Dave cares more about work ethic than fancy credentials." Sarah felt like she might cry again. In the span of 20 minutes, a complete stranger had not only bought her groceries, but potentially solved her employment problem. It felt too good to be true. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "Just show up tomorrow ready to work," Marcus replied. "Dave will give you a fair shot, but the rest is up to you." They exchanged phone numbers, and Marcus gave Sarah the address of the construction company office. As they walked to their cars, Sarah found herself wondering if this was really happening or if she was dreaming. Her old Honda Civic looked even more beaten up next to Marcus's pickup truck, but she didn't feel ashamed anymore. She felt hopeful. Marcus loaded his groceries into his truck and watched as Sarah carefully placed her bags in her car. Even the way she handled the food showed how much it meant to her. When she looked back and waved before getting in her car, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Purpose. The drive home gave Marcus time to think about what had just happened. He lived alone in a modest apartment across town, having never married or had children. His life was comfortable but solitary. Work, gym, groceries, sleep, repeat. He had friends at the construction site and occasionally went out for beers, but his personal life was pretty empty. Helping Sarah had reminded him of something important. His grandmother had always said that the best way to find meaning in life was to be useful to other people. After she died 5 years earlier, Marcus had thrown himself into work, but hadn't really connected with anyone in a meaningful way. Tonight felt different. When Marcus got home, he called Dave Peterson. His boss was watching television with his wife when the phone rang, but he was always available for his crew members. Dave had built his business on the principle of treating his employees like family. Marcus, what's going on? Dave answered on the third ring. Hey, Dave, I know it's late, but I wanted to talk to you about that office position you've been mentioning. The administrative assistant job? Did you find someone? Marcus explained his encounter with Sarah, leaving out some of the more personal details, but emphasizing her experience and her current situation. Dave listened thoughtfully. He had known Marcus for 8 years and trusted his judgment about people. Bring her by tomorrow morning, Dave said finally. I'll talk to her. If she's half as decent as you say she is, we'll work something out. God knows I need the help with all this paperwork. Marcus hung up feeling satisfied with the day's events. He heated up leftover pizza for dinner and settled in front of the television, but his mind kept drifting to Sarah. There had been something about her situation that reminded him of his own struggles after his grandmother died. Not financial struggles, but the feeling of being alone and uncertain about the future. Meanwhile, across town, Sarah was having trouble sleeping. She kept replaying the evening's events in her mind. The embarrassment of not having enough money for groceries. The kindness of a stranger who had no reason to help her. The possibility of a job interview in the morning. She got up,